Welcome to this week's first remote episode of the Spartan News. I'm your host, Garrett.
And I'm Maddie. In this week's episode, we'll be covering, that's right, you guessed it, all things COVID-19. From e-learning to staying positive to keeping healthy, we've got you covered. There's no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic has upended our lives. Many of us had plans well underway. Athletes have been training for their spring sports, musicians have been practicing for end-of-the-year concerts, and clubs have been working hard to end the year strong. I had the pleasure of finding out what the future looks like for club sports and activities, as well as what they're doing now to stay connected. So let's take a look. Amid the Illinois statewide school shutdown, which was announced on March 13th, many long-awaited trips and events were canceled as well due to fears of COVID-19. Students, teachers, and staff members were all largely affected as they would be missing out on their previously planned events and trips. Most notably, the semi-annual spring break choir trip and SHS's beloved dance show, Orchesis.
I was really disappointed when the choir trip to New Orleans was canceled, especially being a senior. This was going to be a last hurrah with a lot of my friends, and I went on the one to Disney the 2 years prior, so I was really looking forward to it. But with fears with Corona and all that stuff and travel, I completely understand it being canceled, and we do get a partial refund.
At the time, it was probably the most difficult decision we've ever had to make regarding Orchesis. We went from the night before, we had a full dress rehearsal, and then we just found out that afternoon that the show was going to be postponed for the weekend, canceled. So it was pretty devastating for myself and the other directors and all the students and everybody involved. We had a full show set ready to go for that night, just to have it taken down. I want them all to stay positive and have the mindset that this is going to happen, that we will somehow make this happen.
For some sports and clubs, the coronavirus pandemic barely allowed their season to start.
They are still flirting with the idea of having a season and a state series. They're thinking about running them into mid to late June. If the governor pushes any delays into May, the IHSA did announce that they would most likely cancel the season. So it's just really important that the girls stay active and fit, so that if we do go back and we have a season, that we're ahead of the curve, hopefully, with the other teams.
Many people globally are feeling the effect of the shutdown as the days turn to weeks and the weeks turn to perhaps months without a definitive end in sight. However, despite these troubling times keeping us apart physically, clubs like SHS's Model UN have made the leap towards finding a way to keep students connected by continuing meetings through platforms like Zoom.
So even though it's been different, it's still school. School hasn't been canceled completely. We still do e-learning. Still nice to have these extracurricular activities. It's not just about the learning aspect of school, it's about the friendship, the clubs that you have, and also just fun. It's fun to hang around in the meeting, berate people, but it's all in good nature. You're learning things along the way. I wanted to do it online because you could, basically, and I like Model UN, and I wanted to have a meeting. I just think it's important that we continue to do online meetings or meetings in general.
Keep your heads up, Sycamore High. For Spartan News, I'm Maddie Hummel. It's nice to see how students and staff are working together to stay positive and connected during these uncertain times.
I'm sure we were all just a little excited when we heard school would be letting out for a while. I'm also sure that it didn't take you too long to figure out that there can be a lot of time to fill, after you've done all your e-learning, of course. Lucky for you, we went out and collected some tips on how to keep yourself entertained during this quarantine.
Admit it, at one point or another, we all wish that we could have stayed home for a little bit, either from spring break or just stayed home and worked from home. Well, I'm sure none of us anticipated these circumstances, but now those days are upon us. But don't fret, if you're going just that wee bit insane, we're here to help. A bunch of SHS students have come together to give you activities to stay sane during this COVID-19 break.
Hi, my name is Reese French, and something that I do to keep myself entertained during quarantine is watching shows on Netflix.
Hi, my name is Garrett Harms, and something I've been doing to stay entertained during this quarantine is play with my dog and learn to play the ukulele.
Hi, my name is Kate Peabody, and the way I've been staying entertained during this quarantine is I've been going outside or reading a lot.
I'm Brandon Gerbaki-Weedman, and something that I've been doing to keep myself entertained over this is talking to my friends.
So, give the recommendations a shot. Try something new. Do something you wouldn't typically have the time for if you were still in sports or still had school. Take this time to find yourself as a person, maybe. Ultimately, the goal here is to make every second count. Just think about it. In 20 years, when you have kids in a family, you'll have a great quarantine story to tell to your kids. You gotta make it a good story.
Thanks, Will. I'll be turning my attention to learning more songs on my ukulele.
In the spirit of staying entertained, we now take a look at a student-made short film that was made regarding the COVID-19 outbreak. It was produced by our very own Reese B.
In December 2019, the Chinese authorities notified the world that a virus was spreading through their communities.
Pretty bubbles in the air, they fly so high, nearly reach the sky.
Top story, just 1 month after the U.S. reported its first COVID-19 death, America has become the epicenter of the pandemic.
Fortune's always hiding.
Anybody who has mild symptoms now should self-quarantine.
I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, stay home. I mean everybody.
If that all happens at once, it will overwhelm our medical system, and there will be thousands and thousands of deaths that we don't need.
Pretty bubbles in the air. I'm dreaming dreams. I'm scheming schemes. I'm building castles high.
The death toll doubled in just 2 days, and America's top infectious disease specialist is now warning that millions of people face infection and 200,000 could die.
Butterfly. And as the daylight is dawning, they come again in the morning.
Already, more than 136,000 people are infected, and more than 2,400 have died from the virus.
Continue to notice littered gloves in parking lots and along sidewalks.
Late today, President Trump sent a warning to Americans, saying the worst is yet to come.
The peak, the highest point of death rates, remember this, is likely to hit in 2 weeks.
I understand that you're looking into an isolated room. There's somebody watching you, so you don't hospitalize yourself, but not yet quite on a ventilator.
It was not unusual to see some of these patients coming in with shortness of breath and literally within 12 hours coding, basically their heart stopping.
Fortune's always hiding. I've looked everywhere. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the
Thank you, Reese, for leaving us off on that note.
That's all we have for you this week, Psycho High. I'm Garrett.
And I'm Maddie. We'll have more for you next week. Remember, we are all in this together. Have a great week, Psycho High.